The meeting room on Sanctum Prime was the largest space Kate Morrison had ever seen. The circular chamber stretched so wide that she could barely see the far walls through the dim lighting. Hundreds of alien beings sat in rising tiers that climbed toward a domed ceiling covered in stars. Some of the creatures glowed with their own light. Others were so dark they seemed to absorb the shadows around them. A few didn't even have bodies she could recognize, existing as clouds of gas or shimmering energy fields. Kate stood at the center podium with 3 other humans behind her. Captain Gregory Hayes, a tall man with gray hair and steady eyes, kept his hand near his communication device. Linda Park, their chief engineer, clutched a datapad filled with technical specifications. Dr. Peter Kane, the xenobiologist, looked around with barely contained fascination at the alien assembly. They had been part of the Galactic Council for 15 years. 15 years since humanity discovered they were not alone in the universe. 15 years since they joined a community of species that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. It seemed like a long time to humans, but to the Council, humanity was still brand new, still young, still learning how things worked. High Counselor Zelthar rose from the central seat. The Varathian leader was a being made entirely of crystal, standing 3 meters tall. Light refracted through his body, creating rainbow patterns on the floor. When he spoke, his voice echoed from every surface, translated instantly into English by the technology embedded in Kate's ear. Ambassador Morrison, Zelthar began, his crystalline form pulsing with each word. We have called you here today to discuss a matter of great importance to the Council. A matter that requires your full cooperation and understanding. Kate nodded politely. She had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. She knew how to read a room, how to sense when danger was coming. Every instinct she had was screaming warnings right now. Humanity possesses technology that is unique in the known galaxy. Zelthar continued. Your jump drive allows ships to travel faster than anything we have seen in 3,000 years of Council history. This technology represents a significant shift in the balance of galactic power. We developed it ourselves, Kate said carefully. Before we even knew the Council existed, it's human technology created by human scientists working on Earth. Indeed, Zelthar agreed, which makes this conversation more complex. However, the Council has established protocols that have maintained peace for millennia. One of these protocols is the Technology Harmonization Act. When a member species possesses technology that could disrupt galactic stability, that technology must be shared with the Council for the benefit of all. Kate felt her stomach tighten. Behind her, she heard Gregory shift his weight. Linda's fingers stopped moving on her datapad. You want our jump drive? Kate said flatly. We require that humanity share the complete technical specifications with the Council, Zelthar corrected. This is not a request for negotiation. It is standard procedure. 42 species have complied with this act over the centuries. Humanity will be the 43rd. A holographic display materialized above the central podium. It showed a long list of alien names and technologies. Kate recognized some of them from her briefings. Advanced weapons systems, medical breakthroughs, energy generation methods, all surrendered to the Council under the same act. What happens if we refuse? Kate asked, though she already suspected the answer. The chamber fell silent. Several alien beings leaned forward in their seats. Zelthar's crystalline body flickered with colors Kate had learned to recognize as surprise. Refuse? Zelthar repeated. Ambassador, I do not think you understand. This is not a matter for refusal. The Technology Harmonization Act is binding on all Council members. Compliance is mandatory. And if we still refuse? Kate pressed. Zelthar's colors shifted to deeper reds and purples. Then humanity would be in violation of Council law. Such violation carries consequences. Economic sanctions, trade restrictions, exclusion from Council space. In extreme cases, military intervention to protect galactic stability. You would invade Earth? Gregory spoke up from behind Kate, his voice hard. We would do what is necessary to maintain peace, Zelthar said, but such measures have never been required. Every species, when presented with the facts, has chosen cooperation over conflict. We expect humanity to make the same wise choice. Kate looked around the chamber. She saw alien faces watching her with expressions she couldn't fully read. Some seemed sympathetic. Others appeared impatient. Many looked simply bored, as if this was a routine matter that would be resolved quickly. How long do we have to decide? Kate asked. 48 hours, Zelthar said. You may consult with your government. But understand that this is not a negotiation. We are simply allowing you time to accept reality and prepare the transfer of information. Kate bowed her head slightly, the way diplomatic protocol required. We will consult with Earth and return with our response. Excellent, Zelthar said, his colors shifting back to calmer blues and greens. I am certain you will make the correct decision. This session is concluded. The human delegation walked out of the chamber in silence. They moved through corridors filled with aliens of every imaginable shape and size. Some nodded in greeting. Others simply stared. Kate kept her face neutral and her pace steady until they reached their ship, the Meridian, docked at one of Sanctum Prime's many ports. Only when they were safely inside, with the airlock sealed behind them, did Gregory explode? They want to strip us of our only advantage, he said, pacing the small conference room. Without the jump drive, we're nothing out here. We're slow, weak, and completely dependent on Council technology. They framed it as standard procedure, Linda added, pulling up files on the wall screen. But look at this data. Every species that surrendered major technology under this act saw their independence eroded within a generation. They became client states of the Vorathians or other major powers. Peter leaned back in his chair, his expression troubled. The worst part is how confident they are. Zelthar genuinely believes we'll comply. They all do. In 3,000 years, apparently no one has ever said no. Kate stood at the window looking out at the massive station. Sanctum Prime orbited a neutron star, and the gravity effects created beautiful light patterns in the surrounding space. It was peaceful here, safe. The Council had built that peace carefully over millennia. But Kate had studied history. She knew that every empire, no matter how peaceful it claimed to be, was built on the surrender of the weak to the strong. The Council might call it harmony and cooperation, but the pattern was clear. Give up what makes you strong and you become dependent. Become dependent and you lose your freedom to choose. We need to contact Earth, she said quietly. They need to know what we're facing, and then we need to make a decision that humanity can live with, regardless of the consequences. Gregory moved to stand beside her. What decision do you think we should make? Kate watched the stars spin slowly beyond the window. I think we need to remember who we are. Humans don't have a great history of accepting ultimatums, especially not from empires that think they have all the answers. She turned to face her team. Let's talk to Earth, let's give them all the facts, and then let's be ready for whatever comes next, because I have a feeling the galaxy is about to learn something new about humanity. Kate Morrison stood before the Council chambers once again. 47 hours had passed since the ultimatum. 47 hours of intense communication with Earth, heated debates among human leadership, and careful analysis of every possible outcome. Now the moment had arrived to deliver humanity's answer. The amphitheater was packed. Word had spread throughout Sanctum Prime that something unusual might happen today. Alien beings who rarely attended routine council sessions had arrived to witness this moment. Kate could feel hundreds of eyes watching her from every direction. High Counselor Zelthar sat in his elevated position at the center of the chamber. His crystalline form glowed with confident blue light. Around him, the other council members waited in their designated areas. The Vorathian delegation occupied the largest section, 12 species allied with the ancient empire. Kate took her position at the central podium. Behind her, Gregory, Linda, and Peter formed a line. Their faces showed no emotion, carefully neutral as Kate had instructed. Whatever happened next, they would face it together as representatives of their species. Ambassador Morrison, Zelthar began, his voice filling the chamber. The required time has elapsed. Has humanity reached its decision regarding the Technology Harmonization Act? We have, Kate said clearly. Her voice was amplified throughout the chamber, reaching every corner of the vast space. Excellent, Zelthar said, his colors shifting to pleased greens. Then please confirm your compliance so we may begin the transfer protocols. Kate took a breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. High Counselor, honored members of the Galactic Council, humanity has carefully considered your request. We have consulted with our government, our scientists, and our people. We have examined the historical precedents and studied the implications of our decision. She paused, meeting Zelthar's crystalline gaze directly. Our answer is no. We refuse. For 3 full seconds, absolute silence filled the chamber. Then chaos erupted. Alien voices filled the air in dozens of languages. The translation devices struggled to keep up with the sudden flood of conversation. Some beings jumped to their feet. Others emitted sounds of shock or disbelief. Zelthar's crystalline body flashed through a rapid sequence of colors that Kate's briefings had taught her, indicated extreme distress. Silence. Zelthar's voice boomed over the noise. The chamber gradually quieted, though Kate could still hear murmurs running through the assembly. Ambassador Morrison, I must have misunderstood. Did you say refuse? You understood correctly, Kate said firmly. Humanity refuses to surrender the jump drive technology. We developed this technology independently, long before we joined the Council. It represents the work of human scientists using human resources on human worlds. It is our sovereign property, and we will not give it away. A Varathian council member rose, a being that looked like living metal shaped roughly into a humanoid form. This is unprecedented, outrageous. In 3,000 years, no species has refused a council directive. Then perhaps it was time someone did, Kate replied. The Technology Harmonization Act was written for species that developed their technology with council guidance and support. Humanity never received that guidance. We built our faster-than-light drive alone, working from our own theories and our own determination. We owe the Council nothing for what we achieved ourselves. Another voice spoke up from the left side of the chamber. Kate recognized Ambassador Krell of the Draconid Federation, a reptilian species with green scales and amber eyes. The human makes a valid point. The Act assumes Council involvement in technological development. If humanity achieved this independently, the legal foundation becomes questionable. The legal foundation is clear, Zelthar countered, his colors now showing angry reds. All member species are bound by Council law. Humanity accepted these laws when they joined. Did we? Kate activated her datapad, projecting information into the space above the podium. I have reviewed the membership agreement humanity signed 15 years ago. The Technology Harmonization Act is mentioned, but only in reference to technologies developed after joining the Council. Nothing in our agreement addresses pre-existing technology. Peter stepped forward beside Kate. Furthermore, our research shows a disturbing pattern. Ambassador Krell mentioned he represents the Draconid Federation, which joined the Council 3 centuries ago. According to historical records, the Draconids possessed advanced plasma weapons when they joined. Those weapons were surrendered under the Harmonization Act. Within 50 years, the Draconid military was entirely dependent on Varathian technology contracts. That is an oversimplification, a Varathian delegate objected. Is it? Linda joined the conversation, displaying more data. We analyzed 40 years of Council records. Every species that surrendered significant military or transportation technology saw their independence decline. They became economically bound to larger powers. Their votes in Council sessions aligned suspiciously well with Varathian interests. The pattern is consistent and undeniable. The chamber erupted in arguments again. Some species defended the Varathians. Others began questioning arrangements they had accepted for centuries. Kate watched as the unified front of the Council cracked before her eyes. Zelthar raised his arms, calling for order. Enough! This debate is irrelevant! The Council has spoken. Humanity will comply or face consequences. What consequences? Gregory asked, his military training evident in his direct tone. Economic sanctions. We can trade with non-Council species. Military action. Our jump drives mean we can strike anywhere in your space before you can respond. Expulsion from the Council. We survived alone before, we can do it again. You would risk war with the entire Council? Zelthar demanded, his crystalline body now pulsing with dark purples and blacks. We would risk anything to protect our sovereignty, Kate said. That is what you need to understand, High Counselor. Humanity has a long history of choosing freedom over safety. We have fought wars against overwhelming odds. We have sacrificed everything rather than submit to empires that demanded our surrender. You are offering us a choice between giving up what makes us strong or facing your displeasure. That is not a choice at all. A shimmer of light appeared in the upper tiers. The Zephyr Collective, beings of pure energy that rarely participated in Council debates, manifested a voice. The humans speak truth that disturbs comfortable lies. Perhaps the Council has grown too accustomed to compliance. This is not about comfort, Zelthar insisted. This is about order, about the stability that has kept the galaxy at peace for 3 millennia. Peace built on the surrender of the weak to the strong is not real peace, Kate replied. It is simply delayed conflict. You maintain your order by forcing new species to give up their advantages. You call it harmony, but it is control. We will not participate in our own subjugation. The arguments continued for hours. The council could not reach consensus. Some species supported the Varathian position, insisting that humanity must comply with tradition. Others began questioning whether the tradition itself was just. A few smaller species looked at the humans with something that might have been hope, as if seeing someone finally challenge the power structure they had accepted as unchangeable. Finally, Zelthar called for a temporary recess. This matter requires further deliberation. We will invoke the vote of compliance. All council members will vote on whether humanity must surrender their technology. The vote will take place in 72 hours. Until then, this session is suspended. As the chamber emptied, Kate and her team made their way back to the Meridian. They moved through corridors where aliens now watched them with new expressions. Some looked angry. Others seemed curious. A few appeared frightened, as if humanity's defiance had disturbed their sense of how the universe worked. Once aboard their ship, Gregory sealed the door and turned to Kate. We cannot win a council vote. The Varathians control too many allies. I know, Kate said quietly, but we changed something today. We made them argue. We made them question. For the first time in 3,000 years, the council is divided. Divided is not defeated, Linda pointed out. They will vote to enforce compliance. Then what? Kate looked at her team. Then we show them that humanity is not like the other species they have controlled. We show them that forcing us to comply will cost more than accepting our sovereignty. We have 72 hours to change the game entirely. How? Peter asked. Kate smiled, but there was no humor in it. By making them afraid. Not of our weapons or our ships. We make them afraid of what humanity represents. We make them understand that some species would rather burn down everything than live on their knees. The secure conference room aboard the Meridian felt smaller than usual. Kate Morrison sat at the head of the table, reviewing data streams from Earth while her team waited in tense silence. Outside the ship, Sanctum Prime continued its orbit around the neutron star, beautiful and indifferent to the crisis unfolding within its walls. They will vote against us, Gregory said, breaking the quiet. Our intelligence suggests the Varathians have secured commitments from at least 30 species. That is more than enough for a 2/3 majority. Linda nodded grimly. Economic pressure, old debts, technology dependencies. The Varathians have been building their coalition for 3,000 years. We have had 15. The mathematics are not in our favor. Kate looked up from her data pad. Then we stopped trying to win their vote. We change what they are voting on. I do not understand, Peter said. Kate stood and activated the wall screen. It displayed images from Earth's history. Wars, revolutions, disasters, triumphs against impossible odds. The Council thinks they understand us. They think we are just another species that will eventually submit to pressure. They are wrong. We need to show them exactly how wrong they are. She pulled up more files. I have requested an open forum before the Council. A chance to present our case one final time before the vote. They have agreed because they think it is a courtesy. A chance for us to surrender gracefully. But I am not going to surrender. I am going to show them what humanity really is. You want to threaten them, Gregory said carefully. No, Kate corrected. I want to educate them. The Council has dealt with logical species for millennia. Species that calculate costs and benefits. Species that surrender when the odds are clearly against them. Humanity is not logical in that way. We are emotional. We are stubborn, and when pushed hard enough, we become dangerous in ways they cannot predict. She displayed footage of human history. Look at this. A colony of farmers rebelling against the most powerful empire on Earth. Logic said they would lose. They won. A small nation standing against a war machine that had conquered half a continent. Logic said they would be crushed. They resisted for years. Humans going into space with primitive technology because we refused to accept that the stars were beyond our reach. Peter leaned forward, understanding dawning in his eyes. You want to show them that forcing compliance will not work with humans. That we will fight even when fighting is irrational. Exactly, Kate said. The Council maintains order by making submission the logical choice. But what happens when they face a species that chooses defiance over logic? What happens when they realize that trying to control us might cost more than leaving us alone? Gregory stood and paced the room. This is incredibly risky. If we miscalculate, we give them justification to use military force. They could destroy Earth. They could try, Kate said. But our jump drives mean we can hit back anywhere in their space. Linda, show them the projections. Linda pulled up military simulations. If the Council attacks Earth directly, we lose. Their combined fleets outnumber us significantly. However, if they attack us, we have nothing left to lose. Our jump technology allows hit-and-run tactics they cannot counter. We could strike Vorathian colony worlds, Council trade routes, even Sanctum Prime itself. We would eventually be defeated, but the damage we could inflict first would be catastrophic. Mutually assured destruction, Peter said quietly. They can destroy us, but only at a cost they might not be willing to pay. It is not just about military capability, Kate added. It is about psychology. The Council has maintained peace by making war seem unnecessary. Every conflict can be resolved through negotiation and compromise. But we are showing them a species that will not compromise on fundamental matters. That changes the equation for everyone. Gregory stopped pacing. You realize this could backfire completely. They might decide that a species this dangerous needs to be eliminated entirely. Possibly, Kate admitted. But consider their alternatives. They can try to destroy us and face massive casualties and economic disruption. They can expel us from the Council and deal with an independent human civilization that might ally with their enemies. Or they can accept that humanity is different and find a new accommodation that respects our sovereignty. Linda looked worried. You are betting that they will choose the third option, that they will decide accommodation is cheaper than conflict. I am betting that they are rational, Kate said. They have maintained an empire for 3,000 years by being smart, not by being reckless. When they truly understand what fighting humanity would mean, they will look for another way. The team fell silent, each processing the implications. Finally, Peter spoke. What do you need from us? Kate smiled. I need you to help me put together the most comprehensive presentation on human psychology, human history, and human capability that the Council has ever seen. We have 48 hours before my forum. In that time, we are going to teach the galaxy what it really means when humans refuse to back down. They worked through the night. Kate coordinated with experts on Earth, pulling together historical records, psychological studies, and military assessments. Peter compiled data on every human conflict in recorded history, highlighting patterns of resistance against superior forces. Linda worked with Earth's military command to prepare defensive and offensive scenarios. Gregory reached out quietly to Ambassador Krell of the Draconids and a few other species that had shown sympathy to the human position. He did not ask for their votes. Instead, he simply shared information about what Kate planned to present. He wanted allies who understood what was coming. 2 days later, Kate stood once again before the full Council assembly. This time, the chamber was even more crowded. Word had spread that the human ambassador would make a final statement before the vote. Many expected a plea for mercy or a dramatic surrender. They were about to be surprised. Honored Council members, Kate began, her voice steady and clear. You have given me this opportunity to address you before the vote on human compliance. I appreciate your courtesy. However, I am not here to beg for your mercy or to negotiate terms of surrender. I am here to ensure you understand exactly what you will be voting for. She activated her presentation. Images filled the air above the central podium. You have dealt with many species in your long history. Most of them were wise. They understood that cooperation was better than conflict. They accepted Council guidance and thrived under your protection. You expect humanity to follow the same pattern. Kate paused, letting her next words carry weight. But humanity is not like the species you have known before. We are fundamentally different in ways you need to understand. The images changed, showing human history. Battles fought against overwhelming odds. Revolutions that succeeded despite impossible circumstances. Achievements reached through determination rather than logic. Humans do not surrender easily, Kate continued. We do not calculate costs and benefits the way you do. When we believe something is worth fighting for, we fight regardless of the odds. This is not bravery or stupidity, it is simply who we are. She showed military projections. If you vote to enforce compliance, we will refuse. If you impose sanctions, we will withdraw from Council space. If you attack us, we will fight back with every weapon we possess. Our jump drives will allow us to strike targets throughout your territory before you can respond. We will not win. Eventually, you will destroy us. But the cost to your civilization will be enormous. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Kate raised her voice. I am not threatening you. I am simply telling you the truth about what will happen if you try to force compliance. You can destroy humanity, but you will have to fight us every step of the way. Is that really what you want? She changed the display one final time. Or you could accept that humanity is different. You could recognize that we developed our technology independently and have the right to keep it. You could build a relationship with us based on mutual respect rather than dominance. That choice is yours. Choose wisely. Kate stepped back from the podium. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. For the first time in 3,000 years, a species had not asked for mercy. They had not offered compromise. They had simply stated the price of forcing them to submit and asked if the council was willing to pay it. Kate Morrison's presentation had ended 24 hours ago, but Sanctum Prime still hummed with frantic activity. The orderly procedures that normally governed council operations had broken down completely. Emergency sessions ran continuously. Private meetings happened in every corner of the massive station. The panic Kate had predicted was spreading through the galactic government like fire. In the Vorathian delegation quarters, High Counselor Zelthar convened his inner council for the 5th time that day. Military commanders, economic advisors, and intelligence officials crowded the chamber, all arguing about the human problem. We cannot appear weak, insisted General Corthan, a Vorathian military leader whose crystalline form glowed with aggressive reds. If we allow humans to defy council law, others will follow. Our entire system of order will collapse. The cost of enforcing compliance may exceed the value of maintaining that order, countered Economic Minister Velshara. Her display showed projections of trade disruption, military casualties, and political instability. If we fight the humans, even if we win, we weaken ourselves significantly. Our enemies outside council space will see opportunity in our losses. Zelthar's colors shifted through troubled purples. The intelligence assessment confirms the human claims. Their jump drive technology gives them strike capability throughout our territory. A war with Earth would be brief but devastating. More concerning is their psychology, added Intelligence Director Mornthek. We have analyzed centuries of human history. They possess an unusual willingness to accept catastrophic losses in pursuit of goals they consider important. They are not bluffing. If we push them, they will fight, and they will not surrender easily. General Corthan pounded his fist against the table. Then what do you suggest? That we simply accept their defiance? That we allow this young species to dictate terms to the council? I suggest we consider why this situation arose in the first place, Velshara said carefully. The Technology Harmonization Act was designed for species that develop technology under council guidance. We never anticipated a species arriving with significant independent capabilities. Perhaps the act simply does not apply to the human situation. The Vorathian Council debated for hours without reaching consensus. They were trapped between competing imperatives. Enforce compliance and face devastating conflict. Accept human defiance and risk the unraveling of their political structure. Every option carried unacceptable costs. While the Vorathians argued, other species convened their own emergency sessions. Ambassador Krell gathered representatives from 12 smaller council members in a secure location away from Vorathian surveillance. The humans have given us an opportunity, Krell said to the assembled delegates. For centuries, we have accepted Vorathian dominance because we believed there was no alternative. The humans are showing us that alternatives exist. A delegate from the Selenian Concordat, a species of telepathic beings, spoke through a translation device. If we support the humans, the Vorathians will turn their economic pressure on us. We depend on their technology networks, do we? Krell challenged. Or have we simply accepted that dependency because questioning it seemed too risky? The humans developed faster than light travel independently. If they can do it, perhaps we can develop our own technologies without Vorathian control. Another delegate, representing a species that resembled mobile plants, raised a concern. Even if we want change, we are only 12 species. The Vorathians control more than 30 votes. We cannot stop the compliance vote. We do not need to stop it, Krell replied. We need to offer an alternative. If enough species voice support for a new framework, the Vorathians will have to consider it. They cannot maintain their empire through force alone. They need consent, even if that consent has been coerced in the past. The meeting continued late into the night. By morning, the coalition had drafted a proposal. They called it the Sovereignty Accord. It would preserve the principle of collective security, while recognizing that species with independently developed technology had the right to control their own innovations. Meanwhile, aboard the Meridian, Kate and her team monitored the developing situation with careful attention. Intelligence reports showed the Council fracturing in ways they had hoped for but hardly dared to expect. 3 more species have indicated they will vote against enforcement, Linda reported. Economic forecasters are predicting massive trade disruption if the situation escalates to conflict. Some council members are openly questioning whether the Technology Harmonization Act is still appropriate for modern circumstances. Gregory looked troubled. We are also seeing military mobilization. Forathian fleets are repositioning near human space. If the vote goes badly, they may decide to strike quickly before we can prepare. Then we make sure the vote does not go badly, Kate said. Peter, what is the current vote projection? Peter pulled up the latest analysis. It is closer than expected. The Varathians have 28 confirmed votes for enforcement. They need 30 for a 2/3 majority. 15 species are voting against enforcement or proposing alternatives. The remaining 7 are undecided or refusing to commit. So we need to flip 2 votes or convince 7 undecided species to block enforcement. Kate calculated. That is possible. A message alert interrupted the discussion. Kate opened it and smiled. Ambassador Krell has sent us the Sovereignty Accord proposal. He wants our input before presenting it to the full council. The team reviewed the document carefully. It was well crafted, offering a middle path between total Varathian control and complete technological anarchy. Species would retain sovereignty over independently developed technology, while maintaining obligations to collective defense and voluntary cooperation. This could work, Linda said. It gives face-saving options to everyone. The Varathians can claim they are protecting council unity. Smaller species get protection for their autonomy. We keep our jump drives. It is not perfect, Kate acknowledged. But it is better than war. Much better. They worked with Krell's coalition to refine the proposal. Kate suggested modifications that would make it more acceptable to cautious species. Peter added provisions for technology sharing that would benefit smaller council members. Gregory ensured that military obligations remained clear and enforceable. As the vote approached, the panic that had gripped Sanctum Prime began to transform into something else. It was not quite hope, but it was an opening, a recognition that the old certainties might not be adequate for new circumstances. The Zephyr Collective, who rarely participated in council politics, sent a message that was distributed to all delegates. Their energy forms manifested as text in every known language. The humans remind us that growth requires change. Stability that prevents all change is not peace but stagnation. We support reform. That message shifted the political calculation dramatically. The Zephyr were among the oldest council members, respected for their wisdom and neutrality. Their support for change gave cover to species that wanted reform but feared Varathian retaliation. Kate received word that 4 previously undecided species had announced support for the Sovereignty Accord. 2 species that had originally committed to voting for enforcement had switched to abstention, citing concerns about the economic impact of conflict. The mathematics have changed, Peter reported. The Varathians no longer have enough votes for a 2/3 majority. If the vote happens as currently scheduled, enforcement will fail. Gregory remained cautious. Zelthar could postpone the vote. He could try to rebuild his coalition, or he could decide that if they cannot win politically, they will act militarily while they still have the advantage. Kate nodded, which is why we need to give him a way out, a way to accept change without appearing to surrender. Linda, send a message to Zelthar, private, unofficial. Tell him that humanity is willing to share certain applications of jump drive technology for collective defense purposes, not the core technology but enough to show good faith. That could work, Linda said. It gives him something to bring back to his supporters. He can claim he negotiated a compromise rather than suffered a defeat. The message was sent through secure channels. Hours passed with no response. The council chamber prepared for the crucial vote. Delegates took their positions. The entire galaxy watched through broadcast networks, aware that something unprecedented was happening. Then, 30 minutes before the scheduled vote, High Counselor Zelthar requested a delay to consider new proposals that had emerged during the crisis. The panic that had gripped the council was beginning to transform into cautious negotiation. Kate stood at the window of the Meridian, watching the stars beyond Sanctum Prime. They had not won yet. The situation remained dangerous and unpredictable, but they had achieved something remarkable. They had forced an empire that had ruled for 3,000 years to pause, to reconsider, to recognize that some species could not be controlled through traditional means. "What happens now?" Peter asked, joining her at the window. Kate smiled slightly. "Now we find out if the Council is wise enough to choose evolution over conflict. And if they are not, we show them exactly what humanity is capable of when we fight for our freedom." The Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every delegation seat was filled. Additional observers stood in the galleries above. The broadcast to the wider galaxy carried unprecedented viewership numbers. Everyone wanted to witness the moment that would define the future of galactic governance. Kate Morrison took her position at the human delegation area with her team beside her. 3 days of intense negotiation had led to this moment. The Sovereignty Accord had been debated, revised, and refined. Now it was time to vote. High Counselor Zelthar stood at the central podium. His crystalline form showed colors Kate had learned to interpret as acceptance, mixed with reluctance. He was about to acknowledge a change he had never wanted but could no longer prevent. "Honored delegates," Zelthar began, his voice carrying throughout the vast chamber. "The events of recent days have challenged assumptions that have guided our council for 3 millennia. We have been forced to confront difficult questions about the nature of membership, sovereignty, and collective governance." He paused, allowing the translation systems to catch up. "The human situation has revealed gaps in our existing frameworks. The Technology Harmonization Act was created for circumstances that no longer fully apply to our modern council. Species now join us with capabilities developed independently, without council guidance or support. Our laws must acknowledge this reality." Kate watched carefully. This was the moment where Zelthar could either embrace change or try one final time to enforce the old order. "Therefore," Zelthar continued, "I am withdrawing the motion for human compliance with the Technology Harmonization Act. In its place, I ask the Council to consider the Sovereignty Accord proposed by Ambassador Krell and supported by numerous member species." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was not surrender, Kate noted, but it was acknowledgement. Zelthar was choosing to lead the change rather than be swept aside by it. Ambassador Krell rose to present the accord formally. "This proposal establishes new principles for Council membership. Member species retain full sovereignty over technologies developed before or after joining the Council. In exchange, they commit to collective security arrangements and voluntary technology sharing when mutually beneficial. Most importantly, this accord recognizes that different species require different approaches to cooperation." The debate that followed was surprisingly brief. 3 days of private negotiations had already resolved most objections. Species that had feared change now saw opportunity in the new framework. The Vorathians and their closest allies abstained rather than vote against the proposal, a political calculation that preserved their dignity while accepting the inevitable. When the vote was called, the result was overwhelming. 32 species voted in favor of the Sovereignty Accord. 6 opposed, 2 abstained, including the Vorathians. The ancient empire had chosen to step aside rather than be defeated. Zelthar announced the results with the formality required by tradition. "The Sovereignty Accord is hereby adopted by the Galactic Council. All member species are bound by its provisions. This session is concluded." The chamber erupted in conversation. Some delegates celebrated. Others looked troubled by how quickly the old order had changed. Kate felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see Ambassador Krell. "You have changed the galaxy, Ambassador Morrison," Krell said, his reptilian features showing what Kate recognized as satisfaction. "My people joined the Council 3 centuries ago and surrendered our independence piece by piece. Today we began taking it back." "You did the real work," Kate replied. "You built the coalition. You drafted the accord. Humanity just provided the catalyst." Krell's eyes glinted with amusement. "You provided more than a catalyst. You showed us that defiance was possible, that refusing to submit did not automatically lead to destruction. That is a lesson the galaxy needed to learn." Over the following days, the implications of the Sovereignty Accord rippled throughout Council space. Trade agreements were renegotiated on more equitable terms. Species that had accepted technological dependency began developing their own capabilities. The balance of power that had favored the Varathians for millennia started to shift toward something more distributed. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Hardliners within the Varathian Empire grumbled about lost influence. Some council members who had benefited from the old system resisted the new arrangements. But the momentum for reform had become too strong to reverse easily. Kate was appointed to a newly created position, Counselor for Emerging Civilizations. Her role was to help integrate new species into the council while protecting their sovereignty. It was work that would take years, perhaps decades, but it was work that mattered. As the Meridian prepared to depart Sanctum Prime and return to human space, the crew gathered in the observation lounge for a final view of the station. Captain Gregory Hayes stood beside Kate, looking out at the massive structure orbiting the neutron star. "I still cannot quite believe we pulled it off," Gregory said quietly. "A few weeks ago we were facing the possibility of war with the entire galaxy. Now we have fundamentally reformed galactic governance. We got lucky," Kate admitted. The council was ready for change even if they did not know it. We just forced them to confront that reality sooner rather than later. Linda Park joined them at the window. Earth is celebrating. They are calling it the Great Refusal. Children will learn about this in history classes, how humanity stood up to an empire of stars and won. We did not win, Kate corrected gently. We survived. We protected our sovereignty. But the real work is just beginning. We have to prove that the Sovereignty Accord actually works. That species can cooperate voluntarily without coercion. That freedom and stability are not incompatible. Peter Kane looked thoughtful. The galaxy will be watching us closely. Some species hope we succeed because they want the same freedoms. Others hope we fail because it will justify returning to the old system. We cannot afford to make mistakes. Then we will not make mistakes, Gregory said firmly. Or at least we will learn from them quickly. Humanity has always been good at adapting. A communication alert sounded. Kate activated the display to see a message from High Counselor Zelthar. She read it quickly and smiled. "What does it say?" Linda asked. Kate read aloud. "Ambassador Morrison, the Council acknowledges the difficulties created by our recent confrontation. However, we also recognize that difficult conversations sometimes lead to necessary growth. The Varathian Empire looks forward to working with humanity under the new framework. We trust you will prove as dedicated to cooperation as you were to defending your principles." "That is as close to an apology as we will ever get from Zelthar," Gregory observed. "It is more than that," Kate said. "It is acceptance. He is acknowledging that the change was necessary, even if it was painful. That is how empires survive. They adapt or they fall." The Meridian's engines powered up, preparing for the jump back to human space. Kate took one last look at Sanctum Prime. When she had arrived weeks ago, it had represented an ancient order that seemed unchangeable. Now it stood as proof that even the most established systems could evolve when forced to confront new realities. "Ready for the jump, Ambassador." The pilot's voice came over the intercom. "Proceed," Kate authorized. The jump drive activated, the technology that had started this entire crisis, the same technology that the Council had demanded humanity surrender. As the ship slipped through dimensions, traveling faster than light using human ingenuity and human determination, Kate reflected on what they had achieved. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had not imposed human will on other species. They had simply refused to be conquered themselves. They had stood firm on the principle that sovereignty was not negotiable, that some things were worth fighting for regardless of the odds. The panic that humanity's refusal had created in the Galactic Council had forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths. That peace based on submission was fragile. That diversity required respecting differences. That true cooperation had to be voluntary, or it was simply control wearing a diplomatic mask. As Earth grew larger in their view screens, Kate thought about the future. There would be challenges ahead. Adjusting to the new framework would take time and patience. Some species would test the boundaries of the Sovereignty Accord. Others would push for even more reforms. But humanity had earned its place at the table, not through superior weapons or ancient lineage, not through submission or compromise on fundamental principles. They had earned their place by being exactly what they were, A species that refused to accept that freedom must be surrendered for security. Gregory broke the contemplative silence. What do you think historians will say about this? About the moment humanity refused to negotiate? Kate smiled. I think they will say that sometimes the most important word in any language is no. That knowing when to refuse is as important as knowing when to compromise. That freedom is never given freely but must be defended by each generation. And that panic in the Galactic Council was actually the sound of necessary change breaking. Through millennia of comfortable assumptions, Peter added. Linda laughed softly. We caused quite the disturbance for a young species. We did, Kate agreed. And we will probably cause more disturbances in the future.